All right, we'll do the roll call. Jerry Abrahams,
Here.
Phil DeFronto,
Here.
Timothy Hodges, Catherine McKinnon, Commissioner Mascara-Bruno,
Here.
Franklin Perry, Lisa Tepper Bates, Greg Agalde.
Here.
We do have a quorum in attendance for this meeting.
Thank you, Dawn. So if I may, as you know, a public hearing is required to seek input from interested parties by IRS regulations prior to seeking the final approval by the governor. We had a public hearing about 3 weeks ago, and in addition, we had several input sessions over the course of the first and second quarters of this year. For this 2024 and 2025 QAP, the public hearing had 23 folks in attendance and maybe 2 comments that arrived by email subsequent to the public hearing. All of the comments were provided to you attached to a summary document. You may or may not have had a chance to review all of them. They do get to be rather lengthy, but you would notice that of that 23, the majority came from members of the Connecticut Passive House community. Members of that organization are seeking additional points to incentivize heavier investment in higher standards of passive house design. We have, so you'll see, like, this is pretty much verbatim what everyone said, because there was a form letter. You'll probably have noticed that as you read through the letters, you'll see that they were nearly identical. They seek points provided in the preservation category as well as in the new construction category, which is something we just have not done. And there wasn't a evidence to warrant increasing points for passive house. I think at this point we are still in a research mode, and we need to understand the value add to passive house from the status that we're in before we go and add points to incentivize heavier investments. Additional comments came from 3 developers, if I'll say. One was a brand new voice to us. If you would scroll down a little bit, Dawn. I want to say I could find it. It was Troy. I think her name was Erin Roos Brown from Travois Housing Development Consultancy. This group, as I say, they're new to us, but they advocate for Indigenous peoples and tribal nations in general, and are working in Connecticut, urging revisions to our QAP to accommodate developers who are from tribal nations. Many funding opportunities that come directly to the tribal nations, they argue, are very similar to LIHTC in the requirements and the compliance matters. They asked that we consider additional points for workforce housing, that we consider allowing language that enables a manager of an Indian nation property to also be considered a qualified development team member. Then we heard from Beacon Communities, just generally to tell you which developers provided responses. We had Beacon Communities, Trinity Financial, HF3 Group, and WIN. Most of the comments that we saw were favorable to the QAP in its current form. Some things that were requested is that when we're doing the calculation for bedroom credits per bedroom in the 9% LIHTC new construction applications, that we only count the 9% qualified units for that purpose instead of the sum of 9s and 4s. Trinity brought up the point, and they mentioned this during the input session as well, that the greenest developments are adaptive reuse. They're not always the least expensive, but they are the greenest in that they are reutilizing something that's in place already. Beacon made a couple of comments that included a controversial commissioner's choice development and also points for financial incentives provided by local government. And I should note that in a couple of the points that they made, we already do. So I don't know, maybe it was misread in the QAP. And they wanted to see an increase in the efficiency of the hybrid development aspect of our QAP, which I think we have addressed. Just double checking to see if there's anything else that screams out. Oh, there was also a request to reconsider construction cost per square foot thresholds and our construction cost standards. You know, the feeling being that nothing has returned to normal post-COVID, so costs are still unreasonably high, but that's more of a guideline matter. So again, in some of these comments really related to process or guidelines or glossary terms, they weren't specific to the QAP. It was just the program in general, which we invite. We like to hear it just in general. How does the program serve everybody? So some of the comments you'll see are very broad like that.
Hello, sorry I'm late.
No worries. We just were chatting about the summary of comments that we received in the package that was distributed last Friday. You would
Yep.
have seen the summary, about 15 pages of comments, and then the following was the complete text of all the comments from everyone. So you would have seen. So the majority you probably noticed were Passive House folks.
Yep.
Yeah. And then some other comments that we can address through perhaps process or guideline or glossary changes and things that we've already done. You know, there were also things that we have already taken steps to address and are already more favorable. For example, the only change that really we are proposing, we have already discussed, and that was the hybrid language to make it easier to tap into the excess basis that's created when you have a 4% and a 9% together. So just in summary, there were 23 comments, the majority of which came from the Passive House organizations. One comment came from a voice new to CHFA seeking set-asides and points accommodations for housing developed by and for Indigenous peoples and tribal nations, particularly the Eastern Connecticut region. Two commenters sought a review of the construction cost standards, which is underway, and other comments were varied with few themes that rose to the surface as being a common concern. So no additional changes are proposed. Revisions in the draft QAP are clarifying in nature and make technical corrections as previously described. So today I am asking and recommending that the board task force approve and authorize the 2024 and 2025 QAP as it is to be forwarded to the board of directors for its consideration to be adopted and submitted to the governor for his signature.
Thank you, Terry. Can I have a motion to approve the resolution?
I'll make that motion.
And I can second it.
Thank you, Kathy. Any questions or comments?
So Terry, it
Yeah,
seems,
it's Tim. I just really quickly, I am curious. It feels like the 23 is a number that's a lot lower than we've had in the past. Is that accurate? I feel like in the past we've had many more. I don't know if that's good or bad, but just keep me honest. Is that accurate?
No, you know what, the 23 comments, you know why I think that is? We were really surprised too, that we had, I don't know, in the past, probably 70 some odd comments. right? But we have never had as many input sessions, and we had probably 6 that occurred in the spring before the comment period, and people felt like they had their say. We had an opportunity to convene individual groups. So we had like, for-profit developers, nonprofit developers. Each group had their peers with them so that they could have frank conversations. And it was really, I think, an opportunity or a substitution for some folks for the formal public hearing. So this formal, I call it formal because it's the IRS required public hearing. This formal one, while everybody came to listen, nobody had anything to say. And some folks said, oh, well, we'll send you something, or we already did send you something. So that was fine too, was everybody wanted to listen in. It was probably also the shortest hearing on record because of that. But I know what you mean,
Great,
Tim. I
thanks.
thought that was funny too. Yeah.
Yeah, Tim, I'd also like to point out that we heard resoundingly that people were very much pleased with the QAP as it stood. They thought the changes that were made 2 years ago were very, very good.
Mhm.
And we heard very little criticism of the existing QAP.
Thank you,
That's
Brad.
helpful. Thank you.
Tim, do you have any other question?
Nope, all set.
Thank you. Greg?
Yeah, that I was just going to allude to that same point. Terry, it seems like not only did we have fewer comments, but it seems like there's nothing really lingering from the eastern part of the state from last time around, right? We had a little,
Right.
so that's very interesting. So it seems like we did something right.
I think so. I think people are very pleased with the way the QAP is. And even with the Passive House community, in every letter they say how much they appreciated the changes that we've made and the work that we did to involve stakeholders in the process 2 years ago.
Thank you, Greg. Any other comments or questions?
Well, I was just going to say that the last QAP was significantly different than the one before that, which is probably why it generated a lot more comments. So the fact that it's
True.
kind of status quo this time around, probably didn't require as many comments.
Oh, that's good. That means that staff have been doing a good job, right? Communicating. Any other comments? All right, Dawn, could you do the roll call, please?
Of course. Jerry Abrahams,
Aye.
Phil DeFronzo,
Yes.
Timothy Hodges,
Yes.
Catherine McKinnon,
Aye.
Commissioner Mascara Bruno,
Yes.
Franklin Perry, Lisa Tepper Bates, Greg Ugalde.
Yes.
The vote passes unanimously.
Motion carries. Thank you. Terry, the next thing is the approval of the minutes.
Yes, please.
Can I have a motion to approve the May 19th meeting minutes?
So moved.
Have a second.
I'll second Jerry.
Thank you. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Okay, motion carries. Thank you. Terry, is that it?
That's it. We'll look forward to moving this to the board for its consideration. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you to the task force for all your work and the staff for all the informational sessions that you guys held. And I will see you Thursday.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, y'all.
Thank
Great
you.
work, guys.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Appreciate it.
Bye.